It is about time for game number 5. I knew we were going to game 5 right from the start of the series.
You knew.
I would have it no other way.
100% confidence flowing from the gilly of the weed at the beginning of the series that it was going to be game 5, and we managed to make it here. So proud. Absolute. I'm sorry. Just I respect your hustle.
Slow clapping. I'm sarcastically slow clapping your sarcasm.
Despite me.
Yes. Battleground is ready.
Let's
Where
go.
do you think we're going?
You know what? I know where we're going. It's going to be Tomb of the Spider Queen. Thanks to Gale Force eSports taking us there. It's not the Warhead. It isn't the Sky that we were talking about, the shot calling of Sky Temple here for No Tomorrow. It's just going to be a standard Tomb of the Spider Queen. A map where you don't think about it as the one to bust out the cheese, if anything. There are cheeses you can do on some small maps, but they're usually very wave clear focus and rare to kind of bust out things like the Zool and the Probius. So I'm expecting a standard one. If anybody gets wild, who's going to be the team that does it?
No Tomorrow played Probius last week.
They did.
So No Tomorrow.
You're giving it to
But
No
I don't
Tomorrow?
think it will. I don't think it'll go wild here. I think both teams believe that they possess what it takes to win this series
Blood for
by
blood.
straight play.
I can respect that.
I do too. That's what I hope to see from both of these. But No Tomorrow also lost on Tomb versus Team Freedom. So maybe this is that Gale Force are choosing. It's a battleground that Gale Force feels comfortable on anyway, and we're getting down to the end. But if it's a battleground where it has to be a battleground where they feel like they can win from the second pick position.
They're going to have to. Stitches off the table, meaning automatically Holy and Nubarak value and Arthas. But wait, have we asked about Tassadar? Because here's the cool thing. So Gale Force Esports has been prioritizing Arthas higher up until the last game, and then they had a large amount of success by moving into the Stitches over the Arthas pick. Now we see No Tomorrow being the ones who are banning it out, so suddenly it goes, we can't ban the Tassadar because, again, if we give that up, leading to some of the strategies that go over to No Tomorrow. But you're also worried about the Nubarak now because you don't want to be forced into the Stitches, so you go like, do I ban the Tassadar because I don't want him to have it? But then they take a noob, so I can't do that because then I wanted the Tass on the back half. We have the same problem we had in the last draft for different reasons. In this one, thanks to the Stitches ban. Love it. Absolutely love when stuff like this happens in a draft.
Both teams, too, have to be thinking about who ends up with the Vala Ario and what with. Taking Tassadar away is one of the combos with that. Gale Force considering the noob ban.
So now do you fall for the Talking Trees Genji bait, or do you let it go through and go with the Tassadar?
Tass.
I want the Tassadar.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. No Tomorrow, they agree. They're going to go that direction. But does that mean Gale Force snap Genji on the other side? Is it deny, or do they even risk it going through? Gilly, we might have our first game in a long while in North America where we just don't see the Genji picked up. I'm going to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Genji gets banned in the secondary ban phase and just everybody kind of lets him go through.
Do Gale Force feel like they have to get Arthas in this rotation right now, considering the fact that Stitches was banned?
100%. With a Nubarak gone and then Stitches gone, Arthas is screaming, or you have a different one in plan. Like, right, you're waiting for your other one to bust out if you don't pick the Arthas here. I feel like, yes, it is very much... If you don't go Arthas, you 100% have to Dahaka. You can go into both in this rotation, a little bit riskier.
Genji Uther.
Wow, they're going to like both through. So now this shows a huge mentality shift on the side of GFE.
They were able to get Genji along with Uther. You and I were talking about win rates of heroes, and a lot of heroes, most of our top picks, have a better position when they're first picked than in the second pick position. Genji is the only top pick that is the opposite. He has a higher win rate when in this position of being able to be picked along with a hero that gives him his guaranteed safety, like Uther with Divine Shield. So Gale Force Esports now have fans Genji, or Mike, depending, but the Uther to go along with it.
I'm not sold. I'm going to be honest, for a game number 5, that was a huge risk for GFE. To move into a full team fight on a small map like this, both of those heroes have absolutely no wave clear. You're enabling the double support, essentially handing it, if you want to, over to the other side of the table.
Yeah,
it's just
Vala Ario here, right?
I don't think you have to, but if you want it in this rotation, yeah, you got to go for it. They go with the Tracer. They're going to Tash Trace on a small map. Oh, Gilly.
Along with Varian.
Gilly.
I told you once, they have never played Tass without Tracer if she's up.
Save me.
I know, it's a small map. It's not what you would have expected.
It's just mainly when
you would have wanted. They're ecstatic.
When we get to Tomb of the Spider Queen, and we get to a map where, again, the 2-3, or the 1-2 of Gale Force eSports, the Genji Uther, and I was talking about the lack of wave clear, they have none of it. Tassadar, a lot of wave clear for his role, and he's just kind of vague. Part of the reason Tass is at the top is his wave clear, because he's never a bad pick, ever. Just as a general, like, he'll work in every type of composition, but then you didn't all in on the winning through wave clear, and it's one of the maps you can gain huge leads on very well if you end up committing to that. I would have, for such a dominant teamfight strategy and how consistent it can be through micro, I don't mind giving up the Holy Trinity, the double support, whatever we're going to call it, but committing into that teamfight blow for blow with Gale Force eSports is huge risk.
And Gale Force are banning a support that would have been able to make up for some of that wave clear tier, taking out Rhaegar as a possibility for Tiger JK. No tomorrow now. They've picked up Varian, one of the counters of Tracer, to try to take away the taunt.
They're going for an all-in. Okay, so they picked the Uther. The Karzim, they want to abuse the lack of wave clear, and denying the Rhaegar is that wave clear department that you were talking about. That means their next picks are very burst focus. I'm guessing it's the Greymane Curse Bullet one-shot. With the Rhaegar ban, it indicates that. Because if you're arguing to remove wave clear, Mouth is better at that than he's ever been.
That's true.
So it's not the wave clear they're trying to deny. It's the burst heal, and he wave clears on top of it. Karzim, not going to have any wave clear, and he's a burst healer. But they leave the burst, deny a little bit of the hybrid, because you can make up for it in wave clear on the Mouth. And so much so, again, I would actually prefer no tomorrow. Pick the Malfurion in their comp.
Next 2 picks for Gale Force eSports. Probably Warrior. Calf still has a Arthas. We still have Dahaka up too if Michael Udall wants that. If they want to go for a Dahaka Arthas.
I want Greymane Arthas in this rotation, I think, from them. That's what I kind of expect out of them, at least. But again, their Arthas value has shifted pretty heavily in the middle of the series. Dahaka, and there's the Arthas. I wanted the Greymane for the single target burst. Now, no tomorrow still could actually pick up the Greymane. And again, with the Rhaegar ban out, talked about it. Like, if they go Greymane Malfurion, it's still a pretty reasonable draft for how little wave clear they drafted. They have a lot of wave clear to be able to make up for if they go that rotation. Again, because of how Gale Force picked banned.
2 final picks for no tomorrow. Both teams taking huge risks for Game 5, putting it all on the line for Game 5 to try to take out their opponent, to continue on in Phase 2 undefeated. But only one team walks away with the victory. No tomorrow. These final 2 picks to seal the composition. Ariel and Lunara.
So it's going to be, again, the double support standard. Not even, I keep forgetting that No Tomorrow has the option to move into that Holy Trinity. My goodness. Rather than going with, the opportunity of the Greymane. But I'll say it again, like, I still really love the Greymane pickup here for Gale Force eSports.
It's cool to see that Vala ban, because it did seem like it was sort of dissuading Gale Force from wanting to pick up Ariel to go along with the Uther, and just enough for No Tomorrow to kind of bank on. If they don't pick it, then we are still able to get Ariel and then just have Lunara as well as Tassadar. Gale Force didn't want to go that route. They got to Haka and Arthas. So what is the last damage dealer? It's for K1 Pro. Is it Li Ming for a double reset?
Double reset's risky without anything setting up. Gale Force picked the all-poison comp. Didn't work out at all. Why? Don't double down on an all-in reset comp. They have the same problems. Pick the hybrids. They're so good. The one that sets up, the one that finishes it out. Please not Li Ming.
So who is it?
Like I said, the Greymane or the Tychus. Not the Nazebo? What? We're going for the late game here. Moving on out. Pretty reliable to move into the late game. Again, with the lack of pressure early game on for No Tomorrow with the laning phase, with their ability to one-shot the minions. I don't know how we got here with this draft. I'll be honest. Like, at first, it was like, okay, all this makes sense according to it. And then the minute the second ban phase hit, actually, it was just Gale Force's Genji Uther rotation. Everything past that, I was just like, this got weird. And I don't know how I feel about it. At the end of it all, now that we know the compositions, if you have to pick one team right now off of that, what do you go with?
No Tomorrow.
Why?
Because they have... Sorry. exactly what they wanted.
Just mainly based on the fact that they got exactly what they wanted.
And their first pick. Not that I'm totally buying into it, but it is the trend of this series.
Yeah. I think I would normally agree with you, but for a little bit of different reasons, based on the fact that this composition for No Tomorrow, it doesn't exit the map at all, but I do think that Gale Force might struggle to identify the win condition on a map like Tomb of the Spider Queen. And I think against a team like No Tomorrow, if you give them that many shots into the later stages of the game, eventually they'll be the ones who end up getting a win over one team fight and might be able to turn it around. But I don't know. I think Gale Force, after the series, even with the impressive shot calling in Game 1, it only lasted Game 1. Sorry, it was a fluke. It was an outlier that we got to experience. The shot calling's been good, but not the reason it won the game single-handedly like it was in Game 1. I almost feel like Gale Force is just better overall, and they have a pretty safe comp. It's safer than that of No Tomorrow. I don't know. It's close, man. It's probably closer than every other game we've had in this whole series, too.
Well, let's get to it then.
Let's do it.
Let's get to Tomb of the Spider Queen. One last game between Gale Force and No Tomorrow to determine our victor.
Don't normally do it in a series, but YOLO, we're ready. It's Game 5. We got Mike Udall on the Dahaka. Fan is going to be playing the Genji. King Caffeine on the Arthas. We got K1 Pro throwing out the spiders on the backside and Akaface on Uther.
And their opponents, the members of No Tomorrow. Support player Tiger JK playing Ariel. Jason playing the Lunara. Varian played by Casanova. Tracer played by Equinox. And finally Talking Trees playing Tassadar.
We're going to see Spider build out in his Evo. You know, no mix-up. He's taken a hiatus, right? He was around a lot in North America, and now he's got his moment up in the spotlight. I was wondering if we would see some crazy, like, Toad build, you know, go for the nuke max range. But it's sticking to the traditional Widowmaker there at level 1. Everybody else sticking to their guns. A bit different when it comes to tasks, but he's got situational 1v1s. And everybody else keeping it cool. I guess you could talk about Arthas level 1. The fact that he goes for... Ooh, don't memorize this one off the top of my dome. Absolutely terrible.
Eternal Hunger?
Is it Eternal Hunger? I was going to guess that, but then I thought for sure it was wrong. But the Eternal Hunger there of level 1 to be able to get the passive. Normally we see Howling Blast, but we've seen moments of this in North America.
This not only will increase the mana that is returned on Frostborn Hunger, but you can permanently stack up the damage too to be able to hit. And being able to stack that up into later stages is a possibility of maybe scaring away a Tracer if you know that he can just hit his D and then attack a Tracer, be able to chunk a lot of damage in, and then after that be able to follow up with some crowd control to try to take out Tracer before she can recall back.
The last thing you want is a Tracer to be able to drop the recall, man. Every time she sits so close to HP, especially if you got your cooldowns, you're like, oh, we're this close to being able to get the kill. If she drops a parting gift and gets one on top of it, I mean, nothing feels better as the Tracer and worse on the other side, so I don't mind that to see here. Equinox saying what's up to Mikey Doll up on bottom. Just old teammates giving each other a high five.
You know, I really adore the way that No Tomorrow played that draft, and that specifically is getting Varian along with Tracer. Before, the problem for Equinox on Tracer on Battlefield of Eternity was the fact that Gale Force drafted Varian and had Shattering Throw. And Equinox just could not get the lifesteal out of the Tassadar shielding. So in this instance, there is no way of being able to lock her down with a taunt or having the Shattering Throw to get rid of the shielding. So nice adaptation in the drafting for No Tomorrow to make sure that they can execute with this Tracer composition.
Yeah, I mean, the Varian Deny high up there is smart for the overall team fight of No Tomorrow. My concern with it specifically was just, you know, again, where's your wave clear at? If that is going to be your pickup here. But Gale Force did at no point converted into that on the other side, right? Because that's only a problem until Gale Force commits their next two picks into being like the Gul'dan, the Malfurions, the things that you don't want to be able to deal with. And because they failed to do that, then you go, well, team fight's all that matters. And the Varian Deny eventually became very useful as a resource for them from draft.
And when you have an early pick comp with all the CC as well as the Tracer that No Tomorrow has, you can kind of bully away Gale Force in a way. Like, even when you looked at how the laning phase started, Gale Force were the ones sitting back behind their gate. Casanova's going to charge in, but has shield wall. But because of that, even though, yes, there's not a super heavy wave clear composition for No Tomorrow, the fact that they've still been able to drain the ammo just by posturing has been impressive in this game number 5.
A lot of that comes down to the fact that because Gale Force drafted so poor of wave clear after the Genji Uther, which debatably was forced upon them. Again, we talked about that top half ban phase. But it's because No Tomorrow, between the Lunara Ariel, have enough of a wave clear advantage that TAS can just rotate down, baby the Tracer on the other side. Again, the lack of punishment on the draft from the Gale Force allowed No Tomorrow to not only pick a teamfight-oriented composition early on, but then still go, we can consider wave clear, which is the value of the TAS Ariel and why that double support Holy Trinity is so effective. It's not just good at team fighting, it's actually good at lane clear presence and sieging up over those forts.
Death Coil build for King Caffeine, increasing the range of that helps him be able to stall out at a more safer distance, a turn-in of gems, but also later on potentially cooldown reduction if he wants to go into something like Embrace Death or just being able to have his own sustainability along with the Army of the Dead later. We used to see that being paired along with Summon Syndragosa for more of a push, but it does seem now that Army of the Dead is just the go-to for heroic abilities for Arthas.
Webweaver phase are going to be summoned on here for No Tomorrow. It's going to be very important that they make something happen with this again. Not only because they have a wave clear advantage over their opponent, this is a really early wave Webweaver phase, so the scaling is not going to be that strong either. It just, you don't want to waste 50 gems and not get too much out of it here. And their comp doesn't thrive necessarily at sieging up. They have been winning the laning phase overall, enabling these Webweavers to be a bit more effective. But the Tracer into the Haka. Is this a moment of brilliance? No, Dahaka's still winning. Okay, I was like, is this like the lane matchup that we never expected, where it's like, oh, just casually put that in the 1v1. It's going to be able to dominate there, but, you know, she is struggling here.
Arthas is going down too. Equinox maybe under some fire between the Arthas and the Dahaka, but staying back a bit. She dropped one pulse bomb already in the siege, but Mike and King Caffeine are just fine. However, No Tomorrow with their constant pressure in the mid lane. Take down the fort and move on to the top.
Yeah, this is insane what No Tomorrow's been able to make happen at the early stages of the game. But there's 80 gems available for Gale Force eSports. And I mean, I'm going to keep talking about it because it's Tomb of the Spider Queen. Wave clear is so important here. Gale Force being this far behind this early on, even though they have the gems, they can't do too much with it. And so much so that No Tomorrow might even be able to hit the 10 spike and force a turn-in of their own later on.
And they don't have the gems for it yet, but if they're able to slow things down, stop. Casanova sees Akka phase turning in. Equinox is just hanging around the fort in the bottom. Walks away with it, and the turn-in was denied. Gale Force now hasn't turned in any of their gems either. Because they were so pushed back, they're now holding on to 90 gems already. So that's going to be a lot more after this.
So let's watch what No Tomorrow does with this, because we always talk about the win conditions, and boss useless at this point. Webweaver's unrealistic. So what is the best thing they can do with their 10? They decide they're going to go to boss. I would have loved, just take the keep front wall. Just start blasting keeps and being like, are you going to fight me? Because if not, I'm taking your dang keep. Even at level 6, I don't, timestamp does not matter. If I have 10 and you have an entire 5-minute gap, I'm fusing every ounce of that. No Tomorrow, they are, but let's see how much they end up gaining. That top fort would have died 100% no matter what they end up doing with this 10 spike. That will go down. Beyond that, nothing.
The Bruisers, oh, we've got to pause. Just
nothing
say,
because the pause,
yeah, the Bruisers and later on potentially the Giants are going to push back the waves enough that maybe Gale Force eSports can get in and turn in their gems. But for now, the pause comes in. So let's evaluate how this game is going for the teams. Because No Tomorrow, hello and welcome to HGC. No Tomorrow has a comfortable lead in this 5th game.
They do. It's just, Gale Force somehow lost the laning phase really hard. Again, with how they ended up drafting, and so now it always comes down to just raw team fighting. Though they lost the early Webweaver phase and lost the laning phase, which gave that level and a half window that you always want to avoid on a map like Tomb of the Spider Queen. They failed to do that, so now it's just going to be forfeiting a lot of things. Top 4 is going to be the minimum again because No Tomorrow isn't getting as much out of their advantage as they could be. It's really big for Gale Force. They aren't going to lose a keep. They're going to lose no free damage on a keep. They aren't even going to be worried about their keeps for another cycle of Webweavers, which is a long ways away. When that boss dies, there's still nothing for No Tomorrow to do on the map. which is why they're buying that time. They'll get the level, and then actually Gale Force can still come back. But if Gale Force fails that window, once the boss is dead, they get to the level 10, and they're like, we're ready to turn in. If they do not turn in and aren't successful in that aspect of the game, and if they lose that, like, 3 people and lose their gyms, I'm feeling confident that because of how they've drafted with their lack of wave clear, they just can't come back.
Well, gyms-wise, No Tomorrow looks to be setting up so that they can get a Web Weaver phase beyond or behind this boss just before Gale Force would be able to turn in. So they have to run down and sacrifice damage from the boss because it is so early on. Maybe they can just sacrifice that fort, sacrifice the damage that the boss will deal so that they can run in and get a fight.
Yeah, we'll double check over that, but I'm going to be honest, I don't think that's a possibility. If that is what No Tomorrow is aiming for, we sadly on our pause screen can't actually look at the experience, so I can't tell you for sure on that small window here, but it looks like we are actually ready to go back into this game. So let's get it going. Gale Force eSports and No Tomorrow. I forgot I was still on camera. Game number 5 here on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
All right, so the boss is going down for No Tomorrow with those heroic abilities. Giants grabbed in the bot. Lunara dealing with the bruisers in the mid, making sure that they don't push too far there. Fans starting to turn in, but it's not all that's needed. And Lunara with Thorn Vine actually stalls it out.
Yeah, and so now, again, we find ourselves under that window where Gale Force, to get the turn in and be able to force it. It's unrealistic for No Tomorrow to be able to stack a double turn in here, even with the boss pressuring up on top, which again was a bit of my argument on why pushing that mid-keep front wall is a more valuable trade. The fort's down. The boss will be dealt with. Gale Force eSports, that is your window. It has to work out.
Equinox turning in those 10 gems, 35-42. No Tomorrow are so close. They need 2 more gems.
It's just out of range. Gale Force should go out of their way to try and deny on bottom, but
yeah, there's the wave in the bottom.
They definitely got those off the wave on bottom. They went out of their way, blocking a mini wave before it even met theirs to make sure they got the gems as fast as possible. Trees drops down the Oracle. He's going to be the scout. Web Weaver phase number 2 is right on in. So now, that window I was talking about, though Gale Force didn't get this objective, it's okay. It's okay. What is it? It's okay that they didn't end up getting the objective, but the most important thing for them now is not dying. They cannot lose high gem count players. Those are going to be Mike Udall, holding 35 of his own. K1 Pro has 24, and pre-13 he's a pretty vulnerable target. And then the next highest we find ourselves with Genji. Any of those 3, if they go down, mainly 2 of those go down, then they could really be in a bad spot to turn the game back into their favor. It's just, they're walking on a tightrope, man.
But No Tomorrow, too, have used everything to get to this point. This is their biggest advantage. And yes, they will have 13, but to have their heroic abilities to get the boss and then turn in they were scraping the bottom of the barrel to get this turn in. So they have to make the most of it. They cannot let up the pressure. They don't want to allow any way that Gale Force starts to come back in this game. They are completely understanding of how to play this out. They're starting to take down the wall in the mid. In the bottom, the wall has been taken out too, and that's a Web Weaver that is starting to push in toward the keep, so that had to be dealt with summarily. No Tomorrow does not take down a keep. They do get 13 advantage. Gale Force eSports keeps their keeps alive, and importantly, don't lose any of those 130 gems.
I talked about the emotions you could see in No Tomorrow's play when they got ahead before. That's the first time we've seen it in the opposite. Fear of what they can and can't get away with. They just did what, you know, they essentially played the as passive as you can game that we've seen at times in North America, but not the reason why No Tomorrow is currently one of those undefeated teams, because the teams that end up doing that is the ones that No Tomorrow's been able to punish now. They didn't throw out a taunt and even risk a Tracer pulse bomb pick, and that is rule number 1 when you have Web Weavers. You go, where can we get a kill? Can we at least make them pay attention to us and not get a free clear? And No Tomorrow risked nothing. And you talked about how important that Web Weaver phase was. It's not enough for them to like suddenly not be able to win the game, but it shows that they are questioning themselves in Game 5.
Anybody can fall victim to that fear. It's not just a game that you're risking. It's not just the lead in the game even that you're risking. It's the entire series that No Tomorrow have been able to get to this point versus Gale Force eSports, the team that everybody believes, or a lot of people at least, believes are the better team, have the upper hand in this series. No Tomorrow, maybe feeling the pressure a little bit, but still maintain a lead over Gale Force eSports. But Gale Force climbing back in the game slowly. They maintain all of their gems. They're about to get 13. the first point in a long time where they could try to take a team fight.
Yeah, and you know, if no tomorrow, the mentality that they have to have in these type of situations, because Gale Force eSports, again, every time that they change, everybody has a lot of hype. Every time those original members of Cloud9 revamp in some different way, everybody gets hyped. Put the two together, suddenly you're like, is this the super team? But again, you're like, but it's Gale Force, you know? They're always the super team that's not so super. You know, that's been the case in the past, and now they've lived that hype longer than they've ever been able to do so before. And then if they fell, not only to an ex-teammate here with Equinox on the other side, but more importantly, such a youthful group in terms of veterancy of North American scene, it would just be almost unheard of. Like, the only other example that you could give that would be close would be Team 8 last year, or last phase. And even then, I don't know if it's as fair as a comparison, because Glorong has had that success at that echelon for a long while, whereas Equinox, he's been dabbling a little bit highs, a little bit of lows.
That is true. And No Tomorrow obviously has seen the lows, playing in the Crucible for their position in HGC. It's a different beast entirely to be in the position that they are in now, but they are holding. They haven't gotten any kills. Gale Force eSports holding on to 169 gems, but No Tomorrow marching their way to 16, starting to play with vision a little bit, hoping that maybe they can get the taunt on Michael Udall as he goes to soak that lane. There he is, the taunt and the pulse bomb are there.
But he's still got the burrow. Adaptation was used. He is not afraid. They're looking to try and turn this. Arthas is going to pop Army of the Undead. You see the zombie wall over the wall from K1 Pro. No Tomorrow manages to be able to back out, costing them almost nothing in the world of heroics, and 2 80-second cooldowns on the side of Gale Force eSports.
Dread, we saw that Talking Trees has picked Archon. He did not choose to use it there. Were you expecting to see a Force Wall to be able to go along with the pick combination of Pulse Bomb and Taunt?
I wanted to see it, yes, mainly because the Arthas and Dahaka are both vulnerable to it. Nazebo's pretty vulnerable to it on those long sustaining fights, and they have a consistent DPS. I can see why, at first glance, you go, I want Archon. You just are like, we lack damage. You know, it's just pretty apparent to be, we may be struggling in the damage department. The question is does that slow and enabling Lunara to chase people down and Tracer to track people down, does that make up for the damage that they would have lost in the first place? They go with the safer route, stick with the Archon. I agree with you, though. I would have liked to see the Force Wall here from Trees.
Well, whereas the mid-game, pretty quiet between these two teams, things are starting to heat up. No Tomorrow has 16. They are slowly, ever so slowly, getting gems for another turnaround, another go at the keeps of Gale Force eSports, along with that 16 advantage. They want to make this 16 useful.
They do. And they've got enough gems. That's not it. That's only one away here, Jason. Up on top, though, they got it here. This is the Web Weaver phase that No Tomorrow has to open up a keep with. They so desperately want it. Gale Force eSports, again, we see the 65 on Mike Udall, 31 onto the Uther there with Akaface. But the biggest number, the most important number in this game is the 15 that Gale Force has. They are still a long ways away from the 16. No Tomorrow should be able to open up a minimum of 1 keep, maybe a double, depending on how experience plays out.
If Gale Force are able to win this game, it will be the most patient play to be able to get that victory.
If No Tomorrow does not open a keep, they have 0 win condition for the rest of the game. They're going to panic because they've wasted everything. The boss is their next play, and they won't have an advantage, so they're going to be afraid to start it.
They need to put out the damage. King Caffeine getting fairly low. Gargantuan has been dealt with. The Web Weaver siege is on.
They need this. They have to get this mid keep. This mid keep has to die for No Tomorrow. It absolutely 100% needs to if they are going to have a chance, because they've lost all win conditions. This is every gem they've ever had in this entire game has been invested into this. They've taken one boss that's going to spawn in like, what, a minute to 2 minutes after this Web Weaver phase? If they couldn't get a 16 with that, or before your 16 for your opponents, you can't get that keep. I don't know what else to say. They get it.
They do.
But that was later than it needed to be. And again,
close.
Showing the hesitation, I give this game to Gale Force, where even though No Tomorrow is the stronger late game team, Gale Force has a lot of patience in this game that they normally wouldn't show, and their experience is definitely displayed through their play.
It is showing that Gale Force eSports have been able to keep 202 now gems
and you can't back out
of the hands of No Tomorrow. No Tomorrow going to get their bruisers. Just to get the bruisers with 3, they still have Tassadar, they still have Varian to stall things out, but Gale Force eSports have 16. They are ready for the fight versus No Tomorrow.
Nice delay there from Trees. It's the first set. There's a double storm. Double storm means that pretty much nobody can channel with just the Tassadar. Varian doing his own on bottom, but look at Dahaka. He has enough for his own. He's just waiting for too many resources to show up on top, and then Mike's going to be like, thank you for the free turn-in.
Casanova is starting to head up. Dahaka's going to go in that. No, Casanova sees it. He realizes.
Yeah, he's found it. He actually saw Dahaka too, so no sneaky play there for Mike Udall. Back to the old game that we've seen.
Level lead still maintained by No Tomorrow. Keep down, but it's in the mid. Gale Force had to back out to deal with the mid because of the bruisers, because of the catapults too. No Tomorrow can abuse that.
Gale Force could try and make a giant play. This is something we don't get to see too often. The team who stored everything and the team who's burnt everything, but it hasn't gotten too many major win conditions, nor has a huge advantage experience-wise to be able to end the game. And when that actually occurs, you can make a giant play because all those forts are up. You have no way to make No Tomorrow respond to you. If you do Knights, it's in mid. It's too close to the turn-ins. But if you do it through bottom, you actually could cycle a play up on top. The delay here is going to be real. Equinox actually has already forced a recall, and there's an Aegis, so he's one hit away from going down. The recall, he dashes one more time. Tree survives with the Archon use.
Oh man, I cannot believe he survived. That would have been catastrophic if No Tomorrow lost heroes here, because Gale Force eSports are so close to finally getting their first turn-in, and once they get that first turn-in, there is no turning back for Gale Force.
This is the play I was talking about. So now you take these, you take them immediately. Look, the collapse. So they're too late now. And if this gets sniffed out, they could all just die. They realize that, they're going to run away. But if you take those and then immediately Dahaka goes up on top and plays that half of the game, and you just look to split the pressure with a 4-man, you'd be like, hey, pay attention to our Giants. And then look to maybe get a split push turn in. No Tomorrow, moving down, was enough to scare the members of Gale Force. And always Casanova and Tassadar into deny.
I'm so glad that Tiger JK didn't try to do that deny. He waited for Casanova, knew that Casanova would have been there because Tiger JK would have put himself into danger where Varian could get away because of shield wall, because he's Varian, as opposed to an Ariel trying to do that. Patient play from No Tomorrow, despite the fact that they have been so far ahead. They have one keep down, but we have yet to have a single kill in this entire Tomb game. This has been such an incredible game. In the world of small things that No Tomorrow is doing really right in this game, it's their goaltenders. Not their goaltending, it's good, but it's who they're selecting. Yeah.
Ariel there was not optimal, but that's not who they've been doing it for the most part. It's always been Varian, and it's always been Tassadar. Tassadar and Varian both have a long-range delay that's on a reasonably short cooldown. They both have extreme survivability, even in 1 versus 4 circumstances. They both can buy 3, 4, 5-second delays. And so it's just been cool to be able to see that even that has been considered for No Tomorrow in this game, and part of the reason they find themselves ahead. That was that hit I was talking about from the level 1 of King Caffeine. Divine Shield and Genji with a Dragon Blade. So now Gale Force are committed to the fight. They're not going to allow No Tomorrow to get yet another turn-in with a 20 advantage. They want to go right now. Mike trying to turn in, but No Tomorrow has stopped Gale Force yet again. They dropped the casual pulse bomb that forces the ice block. Maybe not worth it. I can understand the argument of removing the damage, but you're a Nazebo, pretty beefy at this stage of the game. That might be a cooldown that you need in a second, because pulse bomb can pump up and ramp up pretty quickly here for No Tomorrow, but they're closing in on the 20. They're closing in on the Web Weaver and the boss phase. This is it. This is the win condition for No Tomorrow. Because they have somehow stalled out this long, they're going to start a 3-man boss that nobody on the side of Gale Force knows, but nobody else is showing, which should actually allow Gale Force to know this boss is. Somebody on No Tomorrow has to show in a different lane. But where do you show? You mid! You have to show! Yeah, Varian's going now. They need to make it seem like they aren't on the boss. They're going to get the turn-in if Varian can't stop this. Varian's trying to get the 1-man delay. You got one. Lunara's there too now. She has Thornwood Vine. They can't lose him. They don't realize that. Oh my gosh. They're going to lose him. That's 2. Casanova, you can't. Not like this. They get the boss, but at what cost? With a member down, you gave your opponents 20 and a Web Weaver phase, No Tomorrow. Oh man, the greed. Gale Force eSports now finally, after 20 minutes of play, get Web Weavers. They have to deal with the boss in the top, but they have Web Weavers. Okay, so the boss is cleared. It's going to be the focus. Mid Web Weavers, oh, the collapse. They're just going after keep. They're going behind the Web Weaver. They just want the keep. Oh my gosh. Smart play, if it worked. Didn't. Oh! It's poisoned. Can they get out of here? There's no force wall. Genji is going to have a heyday. There's the D-shield. Recalls back to the back. That's good. Reset denied. How much can Fan get?
Tiger's going to go down.
Yeah, that's a minimum 2. Can they get a 3rd? Tassadar has a 2nd E. Lunara has to slow. Nope. Should be able to make it out here. Howling hits 2.
Oh, man, they both were hit by that. Get out, trees.
He doesn't make it. Howling Blast locking him down. And another kill for Gale Force eSports. Top Web Weaver, it's pretty weak, falling below the 25%. Bottom sitting roughly at that 33. So they have bottom 4 dead. And they've got 30 seconds on the map. But Gilly, I would normally say at least they denied the boss after, but we have to remember Gale Force has been storing gems on gems on gems. Like, it's actually more cost effective. I know this sounds weird.
To delay.
For Jason not to hit this.
Don't attack the Web Weaver.
Don't hit the Web Weaver.
Yes.
Do not allow for them to get this turn in.
Get your team back.
Yeah, you want to wait this out as long as possible. One of those few moments where you can stall that, because then they can delay the secondary turn in afterwards. Keeps dead.
17 seconds until TAS.
Those are not the 2 members you need alive to go out there and scout. TAS was 1, Varian's the other. Only have half the problem. That's a Web Weaver phase, it should be.
We're getting 22 minutes into the game with the Nazebo.
They split 2-2, and both should have enough to get the turn in by themselves. Yep, there it is. And you just go, you can't stop us all.
Gale Force eSports has a keep down. The other lanes have forts still up. Bruisers were at least started from No Tomorrow, so they have some help in the mid lane.
They need to go. I want them to go bottom keep more than anything. They're doing it, but it feels a little bit too late. This pressure had to have been applied about 25 seconds, not even, about 10 to 15. Now it's slow enough that top can actually be easily handled, and bottom want to be relevant enough in pressure, but No Tomorrow didn't do that. So though it's a late rotation, it's not going to be punished. Things are fine. And now Gale Force just goes, they don't want to end the game here. I know that sounds funny. They're actually waiting for the next Web Weaver phase. This Web Weaver phase is intended for top keep only, unless they get a couple picks. Then obviously, you know, you can end the game if you want.
Gale Force eSports has been patient this entire game to this moment. They got the first turn in. They're getting a second, which is being dealt with. Gale Force is hoping for an opening, a drag, anything that they can start some stagger deaths and get some kills. Death timers at this length of the game would be so detrimental to No Tomorrow. But it would be detrimental to Gale Force too.
Gale Force didn't get enough done with bottom. They needed to actually be comfortable taking this fight. They ran away so much though that top and mid Web Weavers have already been dealt with pretty well. So now they're going to look for another turn in, but you got a fort. Like, going mid and top would have gotten more than going bottom in that circumstance, because they didn't buy enough time, make enough pressure happen whatsoever. They kind of ran away completely, wasn't willing to go up, and now top is going to be paid attention to. It's, man, this game.
This game is awesome. It has been so awesome.
Lunar is back though, and they know that they have a man advantage. Enough gems for a solo turn and not available by Mike alone.
Taunt, nobody else behind this.
Arthas is questioning if he wants to turn up on top, but Lunar has a wisp to reveal. They know it's a 5 versus 4 for now. Arthas in the mid lane.
Fine, Sphinx stopped Mike, and another stop with the Psystorm.
Yo, Caffeine is taking such a risky movement there. Equinox let him go through that choke though. Casanova, he goes in, gets
zombie
punished.
Wall.
Nice zombie wall, thank you. Thanks to the initiation onto the guard. They get the pick.
They do, but the drag hit Tiger JK. He's in a really weird spot. Divine Shield on top of Arthas now. Akaface is low. Casanova diving back in. They know that they can take this fight, but it's Equinox who's stuck there. He's somehow blinking out.
He's somehow blinking out and staying alive. Akaface needs to die if anybody's going to survive. He goes down. Now he's got the heals for Mike Udall. He'll come back to life in a few. Bowl Spawn with the detainment strike actually gives him room to retreat. Now Lunara taking so much damage, but Tiger JK had the heal over the wall. Everything is fine. Wow. That was a lot happening for only one death onto Genji, but the gems are turned in on top to Haka. That's 55, 56. Enough for a Web Weaver phase, I can tell you that.
No Genji for 22 seconds as these Web Weavers will start to descend. Mid, it has been really pushed into the core of Gale Force eSports, so that'll be the first place where they're trying to clear it out so they can help the Web Weaver. Bot 2 fairly pushed toward Gale Force's base. No Tomorrow pushing out top. That'll be their first to stand.
Oh, man.
To defend.
There's so much to talk about on how Web Weaver phase are played out and like why they are the way they are. But No Tomorrow here, I can see why they're doing what they're doing. It's the most reasonable, safest to defend. But if Gale Force wants to commit towards bottom and go for a cheeky boss play, it's actually a realistic rotation for them now. They aren't going to. They're just playing it as safe as possible, but it was one of those moments where it's like if Gale Force had a more clever play in mind, that could have been the beginning of the end. Now it's going to start with focus here up on the mid fort.
No Tomorrow can clear this out pretty quickly, thanks to Lunara. Even though it's just Splintered Spear, it's nothing crazy like Nature's Culling. The fact that she has Thornwood Vine, but man, those spiders are eating through the health bars of No Tomorrow. Gale Force are posturing. That Web Weaver is almost down.
They committed to it. They showed Tracer down below.
Man, this is so tense.
Drag. Nice Howling Blast afterwards. That's 2 Ws from Casa. Look at Tracer starting the channel. Does she get it? Nope, not enough time. Nice delay. Do they get a second? Yeah, Equinox, sorry, you're not going to be able to get those 8 in.
Blue again. No Tomorrow just cannot catch a break in this late game for that final potential turn-in. But now they've found King Caffeine. They're going in for the fight. They have had enough. Fan is just going through with his Dragon Blade and the Divine Shield. They take out Tracer, Equinox. Casanova is clear over in the back line too, and he'll go down. Lunara doing everything he can.
If she dies, that would have been enough to be able to win the game right here for Gale Force. It's still looking good, but that would have been 100% the beginning of the end again, and now Gale Force is transitioning down bottom. They want to seal the deal. They want to finish this game. Nobody wants to stand around any longer.
Jason has to do as much damage as he can, but now get back. Get back. They can't lose anybody else. Drag doesn't hit. Fans there. There's no Dragon Blade to have to deal with. Gale Force eSports is getting ready to move on to the core. This is 28 minutes into this Tomb of the Spider Queen game. This may have just been it. No Tomorrow hanging on for their lives.
They can't kill Jason. They've got to get onto Jason. He's the damage dealer that might be able to save this game. He's going through trying to do that damage, but look at that shielding already gone in. Talking Trees ends up falling. Gilly, I think Gale Force has got it.
Gale Force eSports taking down the core of No Tomorrow in a 28-minute Tomb of the Spider Queen game. They are victorious over No Tomorrow all the way to Game 5. They had the patience, and it worked out for them. It was a scary, scary game for them, but they made it work.
I think patience is the best way to describe that game coming out from Gale Force. That was just relying on No Tomorrow's mistake at level 9. Debatably put them in that position at 28 minutes in. Their boss play that they moved into and not being able to open up those win conditions a little bit faster, using those resources, I think, number one, I wanted to say that game was a absolute prime example of the problem of Tomb of the Spider Queen. The questions you have to ask yourself and why when you use something, you have to use it with an intent. And I love the patience shown from Gale Force eSports throughout that entire game. But I mean, No Tomorrow, what they were able to do through not only just that final game, but the entire series looks like such a beautiful new version. And I expect a lot from them here for the rest of phase number 2.
I do as well, and I know a lot of North American heroes of the Storm scene feels the same way about this team. Like, they might just be the team to beat. Now, granted, Gale Force eSports has shown that, no, we claim that title, but No Tomorrow is definitely an enemy to fear here during phase 2. Gale Force eSports gets their 4th victory in phase 2. They are still undefeated, and things look very good for them, especially since they've already defeated Tempo and Roll20 as well to go to the Western Clash.
Yeah, and when you look at the list of teams to put as I'm probably going to Western Clash, I only think you could add No Tomorrow to that, and so by taking that, I just go, it's almost 100%. It's very unlikely that Gale Force will not be the Western Clash representative for North America. Which spot? Still up for debate, but at least going is very, very likely now.
Definitely. Gale Force eSports showing really good synergy throughout that series too. Only seems like they have been able to fully integrate K1 Pro and King Caffeine in with the rest of the members. Yes, they definitely lost 2 games, but in the end, just the patience of that last game alone, not losing any gems, never having somebody get caught out, that takes a full 5-man effort for nobody to get caught out in that position like that, but still keep a hold of all the gems needed to just bank in and turn in after turn in later on.
Yeah, and a lot of that is like, I feel like because of the Nazebo pick, you know, the adjustment in the middle of the game to be able to try and deal with that. Don't get me wrong, I think it was an insane risk to be able to take in a game number 5, but one that you could see the Nazebo of like, hey, you know, they don't have necessarily that good of early game pressure too. Then when No Tomorrow committed 3 turn-ins in a row and only got 1 keep barely, even in experience, you're like, this is where Nazebo is really going to come online in those later fights. I feel like you could definitely see K1 Pro just going 1Q, and suddenly every member on the other side of the table was questioning what they do.
And now for Gale Force eSports 2, they have their shot caller who's been doing really well. Michael Udall shot calling for the team. We had questions about how that would go based on what we've seen in the past from him, but things have only been looking just better and better for all of the members of Gale Force eSports.
Yeah, in the world of shot calling, I'm still beyond impressed at game number 1 when looking at No Tomorrow and what they made happen. Gale Force does look better, and they look more consistent, which is debatably, step number 1 to being a great shot caller, right, is like when you always can be that consistent as a group and as a unit, and it's nice to see that here for Gale Force. But yeah, there are still definitely rooms for improvement when it comes to their decision making. No Tomorrow, I'm surprised to see that kind of decision making from No Tomorrow. And again, with Equinox being on GFE in the past like that, you didn't see that. It's just so weird when that shows up, and that it was only 1 game into the curse. It's just, I don't know, a lot about that moment has me, I wish I could hear the comms. I feel like you could learn so much more at those moments.
What about Gale Force eSports would you like? Actually, we've got Mike on the phone, so
Okay.
I'll save that question for later on. Hey, Mike, congratulations. That was a tough series. Did you guys think it would go that way all the way to Game 5?
I feel like No Tomorrow's a really strong team. So, I think we expected for it to be a good series. I don't know if we thought it'd be that intense of a, best of 5. But, huge props to them. Like, Equinox, I have so much respect for him as a player. Look at that team last split. They were last place. They were in the Crucible. Pretty much no one, thought they were good at all. And now look at them now. They beat Tempo. They took us to Game 5. I have a lot of respect for that team and, how far they've come and grown.
Well, I have a lot of respect for you guys, especially in that final game, because you guys had patience that I don't know if I've ever seen from a team. Walk us through sort of just a snapshot of you guys' mindset throughout that game.
So they got the Task Tracer, which is really, really strong on that map, and their comp really shined in, the skirmishes. So Genji, it's a huge power spike level 20 with his ultimate Dragon Blade, so we're might as well go all in on it, and we picked Nazebo. So we just kept stalling out because we knew that the longer the game went, the easier the fights would get for us. We executed it really well. I'm really impressed. I've never really been on a team where, that's the strategy, and then you get there, and, there's only been, 2 or 3 deaths, and you have 300 gems, so you can just, chain snowball the turn-ins. That being said, there's so much more we, need to improve on, want to improve on to, win more.
Win harder. Yeah,
win better.
And even maybe stronger. No, I was really impressed that game. I don't know if I've ever gotten to cast a Tomb game like that where it was so long before kills. The patience that you guys showed was incredibly impressive. So just huge props from me. I'll send you over to Dread.
I have a lame question. Mine is mainly just, I just want to know about, from Gale Force's perspective now, because now taking out No Tomorrow, everybody was very, very strong. They're going to be one of the upper teams of North America in phase number 2. We've now seen you take out them, Roll20, and Tempo Storm. So I feel like you're the best qualified to let us know. If you were to give me top 4 of North America, below you, I'm going to put you at the top. Who in order is it?
I'd say, some players going to be mad at me. I think Roll20, No Tomorrow, and then Tempo. I think Tempo's in a slump right now. You asked me last week, I would have said probably Tempo, Roll20, then No Tomorrow. But I think Tempo's in a slump right now. I think if they get out of it, they'll probably be back up to even with those 3. But I think Roll20 is coming along really well with Goku. I'm really interested to see how the No Tomorrow versus Roll20 match goes. I think that'll really dictate where people actually fall. But I think any given day, I love it. I love that there being a lot more competition in NA. I think it's really cool.
Thank you for the breakdown, because I can tell you from our end, it has been an absolute doozy trying to figure that out.
Yes, it has. Mike, I have a question for you about Warriors. You guys have shown a lot of Arthas priority, maybe even the most out of any NA team that we've seen so far. And then also banning Diablo a lot versus No Tomorrow. So can you maybe give us just a little bit insight into those 2 specifically?
So I'm just a tank player these days. I literally feel like I only play tanks. Because Double Tank's really strong in the meta right now. And Arthas, he's just really good against a lot of the meta picks. He lanes well versus Haka, and then he's good into Greymane. So it's just a really solid pick. And then the Diablo bans, Equinox is really solid on that hero, Equinox and Casanova. Specifically why we banned it, I don't necessarily want to say.
Okay.
They enjoy playing Diablo, and we practice versus it, so we banned it essentially. So it's one of their better comps, so just why play against it?
Okay, cool. Well, that makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing. I will let you give shout-outs before we let you go celebrate.
Oh, this is why, shout outs, baby. First off, shout out to Gale Force, our amazing organization, and shout out to all of our sponsors, MetaThreads, Twitch, NVIDIA, Gunners. Check them out. Use the code UDAL for 10% off if you want them. They're actually amazing. Shout out to all of our fans and my teammates. If you want to catch us, I stream on Michael Udall. Fans is SC2 Fan TV. KingCast is KingCaf, and Aka and K1. Just hit them up on Twitter. They don't stream.
Awesome. Congrats again.
Thank you. You guys have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Hey. I don't know what that was. Gale Force eSports, though. That is very impressive. It's awesome to hear from Mike again, too, but just really impressive series from them and no tomorrow. But we have another one up next, too. Team Freedom versus Superstars.
Yeah, Team Freedom with Cure, the new addition. I was going to go adaptation and I don't know, it was like an addition. That's what I ended up with. But, the addition of Cure has been very impressive for Team Freedom. He kind of feels like it's like him and 4 other players. It feels like often when he is playing. Granted, usually that's with the Genji and he's doing Genji things. But he has really been a nice addition to HGC and I'm only excited to see him moving forward. And then also, where Superstar lands now another week into their adjustments that they make with role swaps and roster swaps.
Yeah, Superstars, man, changed things up big time last week, and we'll get more into that after this break when we return our next series, Freedom versus Superstars. This is the HGC.